so much. Thank you so much. It's a really great honor to be bestowed with this wonderful honor, and particularly meaningful today. It's Armistice Day in the United States. It's Veterans Day. And we think of, on this day, really the reason why we are alive, because there are heroes, men and women, who have defended freedom, have defended democracy, and have died for its cause. And this is really about architecture as well, because architecture cannot exist in a totalitarian environment. It cannot exist as a free art if it is not within a democracy, within the values of liberty, of justice. And the two things that I've always been very interested in my own work were, one, of course, what is the language of architecture? What does it say? A building is not just an object. It's not just a metaphor. It's something that speaks to the soul of a human being. And at the same time, it has to carry a memory. Often this memory is burdened by tragedy. But at the same time, architecture, I believe, has to bring in hope. Hope of continuity across disconnection, across an abyss, across destruction, across all the things that we know are evil in this world. And in my own short career in architecture, because I've been an architect only for 20 years, actually, 20 years this year, started in 1989 when I won the competition for the Jewish Museum in Berlin. I thought, when I moved to Berlin, what this building could represent. Of course, it deals with unimaginable tragedy. It deals with an irreversible fate, a destruction of community, destruction of Jews, of others, of millions. And one thinks of, what can architecture do? It cannot only focus on that past. It cannot only be that. It must give hope to a city that is now an open city, to a country, Germany, which is an open democratic country. And so I learned in that very first project the connection between memory and also to provide a building that brings light. Light not only in a physical way, but in a spiritual way, because every building, I believe, is not just a piece of culture, but carries with it the spirit of human beings. It carries the spirit of those men and women who died for us, so that we can be here with our free thoughts and with our free arts. In one of my last projects, which is Ground Zero in New York, a similar thought occurred to me, because in a strange way, the Jewish Museum was opened exactly on a particular date, which was September 11th, 2001. You know, I worked on this building for 13 years, and it was fateful in some strange sense that it opened on this day, and it was the first day when I went to our studio, and I turned to my wife and my colleagues, and I said, you know, this is the first day I don't have to think of German history. I don't have to think of Jewish history. Now the museum is opening its door to the public. People can just walk in themselves and have an experience. And of course, at 2:30 in that afternoon, which was 8:30, 8:40 in New York, we heard and we saw the images of those attacks on New York, where thousands of people perished. And I decided at that point that I would return to New York. And luckily for me, as I returned, I also was able to win the competition to be the master planner of Ground Zero. There too, I thought of how to bring together, because we are in a different kind of war. It's a different kind of war, but it's still, we know it. There are troops all over the world defending our freedoms. And I often thought, what does Ground Zero mean? On one hand, of course, it has to immortalize those who perished. There were 3,000 citizens from 98 different countries who died on that day. It could have been any one of us. And at the same time, it has to provide, as architecture and urban planning have to do, a hope for the future, set a foundation for an incredible city, a city full of diversity, of pluralism, of interest. And so I called it Memory Foundations. And indeed, Ground Zero, as you know, is very complex, very emotional, highly political, is underway today, and you will see results in just a couple of years. So that's what I believe architecture to be. It's a language that communicates, a story. And I believe that architecture is a story. It has to take that legacy of those who we remember today and take that story in a way that is positive. And that, of course, is the core of architecture. I think there can be no more optimistic or positive art than architecture. You know, you can be a pessimist as a general, or as an economic leader, as a poet, a musician, as anyone. But you cannot be a pessimist as an architect, because architecture always lays the foundations of a better future for all. And I think we're lucky to celebrate in a democracy, in a time when we remember those who died, who perished to defend our liberties. And the world, of course, is full of threats. As Winston Churchill said, one of my favorite heroes, he said there will always be conflict. We have to know how to resolve these conflicts, to understand their history, to steer them to something more positive. So it's my honor to be here. I know there are architects and designers here, and I really wish you this. You've gone to a fantastic school. Belfast, what an incredible place. Incredible university with its energy, kind of transforming the city. And again, the history of the troubles that so affected this part of the world. And I believe in you. I believe in this university. I believe in the open world, which is coming together in ways that we can hardly fathom today. Thank you very much.